If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, hit that little bell icon so your phone buzzes every time we post a video, and make sure to check out the Travel Punks podcast in all the podcast places. One of the most important tools in the tool belt of a travel punk or digital entrepreneur is his or her trusty laptop computer. It's how we stay in touch with our workplaces, with our friends and families, and how we remain productive on the road while we're traveling the world for free at the expense of Chase, American Express, Citi, and all those other generous travel rewards programs. In this case, you have the distinct pleasure and privilege of watching me unbox and unwrap my just arrived MacBook Pro 13-inch. I got the new model. I decided to go all out. I'd had my last MacBook Pro for 5 years and it was really struggling, really kind of in its final moments. And so I wanted to future-proof my next laptop purchase and get something that I thought would last. So I got a really souped-up computer. The MacBook Pro is the big boys and big girls machine of the Apple laptop lineup. At various points, they've had the MacBook and they've had the MacBook Air. They're currently selling a MacBook Air, and you would think that for a person who likes to travel, the MacBook Air would be a better choice because it's lighter, but the truth is, the MacBook Pro has only been a little bit lighter than the MacBook Air for a long time, and at the same time, it's a lot more powerful. The MacBook Pro in this generation is 3.1 pounds, whereas the MacBook Air is only 2.7 pounds. Now that's still lighter, but only by 0.4 pounds. And they're comparable thicknesses when you consider the back end where the battery is. So for only a little extra weight and a lot more money, you end up getting a much more powerful machine that's going to be able to grow with you if you do things like video editing, photo editing, art and design, music editing, and any of the other creative shit that I like to do while I'm on the road. So let's get started opening this up. The new MacBook Pro is available in 16-inch, but I never get something that big. That's kind of my concession to the lighter weight travel aesthetic with being unwilling to pack a 16-inch computer. I lose something in terms of screen size, obviously, and some degree of computing power, but not so much that I'm upset. As you'll see, I've souped up this machine an awful lot, and I'll go through the specs in a little bit. Ooh, look how pretty. It's available in space gray, which these computers didn't used to be available in, which a lot of people are nuts for, but I actually prefer the more classic silver finish that makes it look like an original MacBook Pro. I used to have one of the Power Macs in college, so that's about how old I am. See, look how thin this thing is. It's only about 15 millimeters, and it's super lightweight. So in my opinion, if you love Apple computers and you need some serious computing power on the road, the 13-inch MacBook has always been the way to go. A couple of other things that it looks like is in the box. A couple of certificates and warranties. Here's a charging port, and one of the things that made me reluctant to get one of the really new MacBooks is that it uses USB-C almost exclusively. You see, instead of Thunderbolt and USB and a card reader, it's just got these 4 USB-C ports. It looks like it's also got an 1/8-inch microphone adapter and headphone adapter, which I wasn't expecting, but I use Bluetooth headphones all the time anyway, so that doesn't really help. But you remember that little headphone jack was done away with by one of the iPhone generations. I think it was 7, and it was a big fucking scandal. No one liked that it was gone, but now none of us even remembers how big it is. I think it was several millimeters. I don't fucking know. Anyways, USB-C is how this computer also charges, so it can charge at any one of these ports. Like I said, I was not enthusiastic about having to re-cable all of my stuff, which has USB 3 and traditional USB ports. But then when I was about to travel to Japan on that trip with the ANA first class ticket that I will link to right here because it was fucking dope and you get to see the inside of ANA's old first class, as well as some shit about my trip to Japan. When I was in the Airbnb the day before I was supposed to leave, in Houston, Texas, I discovered that I had left the house without my old MacBook Maglock charger. So I had my computer, but no way to charge it. So I had to frantically scramble to a Best Buy and pay the going rate for one of those chargers because I couldn't order a third-party off-market one for a little cheaper. They charge anywhere from $80 to $120 for those fucking chargers. And these guys, closer to $20 to be able to charge it. And it's basically like being able to charge your computer with a USB. So that's a lot of fun. Ooh, we got some contact paper. Extra large trackpad, larger than usual. It's got the Magic Keyboard as well as the Touch Bar, which is Apple's answer to people likes touch screens, but that's not really what we do. It's powering up immediately as soon as I opened it, but I'm interested to see how much of the Touch Bar functionality I actually enjoy if I'm using it with Logic or Reaper or Microsoft Word or Final Cut Pro. Things will appear in this little touch bar and it'll have touch access to it, so that could be a little bit exciting.
Use English as the main language. Press the return key.
Maybe I will, Mac, but we're doing something right now, so let's talk about that later. A couple of the specs of this MacBook Pro. These are available with up to 4 terabytes of solid state drive. I got 2 terabytes. My old computer was 256 gigs, so 8 times the space, which is super exciting because I had changed over to Dropbox with 2 terabytes of purchase space so that I would have a cloud-based backup for all my important files. But with only a 256 gigabyte hard drive, what I actually had to do was Velcro a 2 terabyte external hard drive to the back of my computer. You might have even seen it in some of my old videos. In fact, let me go and grab old Betsy and show you how I was doing that. Hold on. You see this shit? I was actually pretty proud of the ingenuity of this setup, but one of the problems is that it's a little faulty to plug an old MacBook or even a Mac computer into a USB hard drive, or maybe this hard drive is a little cheap. It's a 50-50 shot as to whether or not it will even connect to the hard drive, even if it's formatted properly. Plus, when I said that it's a problem that this has only USB-C, well, this has the traditional USBs, but with this plugged in at all times, I only had access to one extra USB port on this computer, so it was already a problem for me to have enough connectors to do the kind of things that I want to do. For example, I couldn't run a USB microphone and a USB webcam at the same time. So that was very limiting, and now that I have this USB-C computer with these 4 ports instead of the 2 regular USB ports, what I got is this little USB-C connector, has 3 traditional USB ports and a card reader. Couple other things. Yeah, HDMI, which is another thing that this doesn't have. It replaced HDMI and the Thunderbolt audio video inputs with the USB-C. I mean, this is Apple's shtick, famous for the ethic by Steve Jobs, who wanted it to be a closed system that was compatible with nothing. Of course, they were going to invent their own fucking USB because USB is too universal. It's right there in the name, and they want it to be Apple specific. There's a bunch of shit about it in the Steve Jobs movie that was directed by Danny Boyle and it was written by Aaron Sorkin, which is my favorite, and it's on Netflix right now, so check it out. But for the time being, I'm an Apple devotee. I can't imagine using anything other than Mac OS. I'm full on past the point where I've drank the Kool-Aid and I'm an Apple devotee, so it's kind of an abusive relationship where they're like, we're going to change the USB and give you a touch bar that you don't know how to use, and I will go along with it because I am a sheep. But you know what? I'm a sheep with a lot of frequent flyer miles and a badass new computer. This has actually got the highest amount of RAM in it. Like I said, I got this thing souped up. You can have up to 32 gigs of RAM in one of these 13-inch new model MacBook Pros, and I got it, 32 gigs, so I'll be operating many programs in open windows, hopefully a lot faster than my poor older computer was able to do when it was kind of in its final realm. By the way, I'm going to wipe this computer and give it to a friend who doesn't have as stringent computing needs. So reuse, recycle, save the rainforest and shit. Another thing that this has is the fastest processor available on these computers, which is 2.3 gigahertz i7 10th generation 4-core processor. So in addition to being able to handle a lot of applications and windows open at one time, it should have very fast rendering for my audio and video projects and just be all around dope. By the way, if you want to see a difference between the thickness of a 5-year-old MacBook Pro and the new model MacBook Pro, feast your eyes on that. Is that clear? Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it, but if you can, I'm sure it's amazing. So thank you for watching me unbox my brand new MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020 model. I expect to be getting a lot of sexy use out of this on the road as I travel the world for free, courtesy of all the kind credit card banks that unknowingly gave me corporate sponsorship when they gave me sign-up bonuses. Thank you for the points, boys. Couldn't do it without you.